Hi, I'm Kyle from Party of 3 and today is a little bit of a spontaneous video. As you are aware, the new set for Flesh and Blood is coming out on the 14th of July, meaning that this coming weekend is actually the pre-release for it. Now, Dusk Till Dawn is actually an expansion set, so we can't really do any limited format with it, at least by itself. We can't do a seal by itself and we can't do draft by itself, unless we play Shapeshifter, but that can be a little messy. So for this pre-release, we're actually just having War the Monarch, which is a draft event. And since we're drafting the Monarch set, it's been quite a while since anyone's touched any of those cards. Monarch was the 4th set, and now Dusk Till Dawn I believe is the 10th set. That's a big gap. So in this video I'll let you know what the heroes are available in the Monarch set and what cards to look after in each specific hero. Please be advised that the contents of this video is purely subjective based on the perspective of Party of 3. The Party of 3 team actually just sat down, played a draft, and looked at what cards will benefit what hero, and that's why we're able to make this video. And we think that it'll be very beneficial for the people who weren't able to play Monarch. So without further ado, let's get on to it. To make it easier on you guys, we'll try to put the little timestamps here on YouTube. We've never actually done that before. Yeah, we'll try. So in no particular order, we'll start with Levia. If I'm looking over here or over here, that's because that's where my monitors are and I'm just reading. So Levia or Levia, however you say it, doesn't really matter. If a card with 6 or more attack has been put into your banner shown this turn, cards you own lose blood debt during the end phase. Okay, you need that to activate basically every turn. Because once there's a card with blood debt in your banner zone and you're playing a Shadow Brute hero, it's not like a Shadow Runeblade where you can replay it from the banner zone and it goes into your graveyard. No, it stays there. So you need to banish a card to do her ability so you don't get hurt at the end of your turn. When we played Levia, the main thing that we found out is you have to go second. If you win the coin toss, go second. If your opponent wins the coin toss, they're likely to go first anyway. It's really unlikely that they're gonna go second, but whenever you can, go second. The reason being is that you'd want to block with 3 cards on the first turn because you draw up anyway. Obviously, with discretion, because if you have a really good card in your hand, you don't just want to waste that and put it into your graveyard immediately. You hold on to it. So block with as much cards as you want just to fill that graveyard early game, okay? After that, during your normal turns mid game, you would like to play 2 cards, 1 non-attack action and 1 attack action, and hopefully those 2 fit a blue pitch, right? Reason being is that one of them is likely a brute common that would take away 3 cards from your graveyard, put them into the vanish zone, right? And then you need to refill your graveyard again, right? 2 during your turn onto the graveyard, and then during your opponent's turn, block with 1, okay? Leaving you with 3 more cards during your turn. It's always a threat when you're hitting them for more than 7 damage each turn. So the person who has the most experience with Levia would be James, and he provided me with some cards that you might want to look out for when you're drafting. One of them would be Dreadwood Rumbler. So yes, it's a bit steep as a 3 cost, but at least the 3 cost, but at least the blue is a 6 and it only gets higher from there. So the red is 8 attack, and which is good. It can be the only card that you play during your turn, which is absolutely fine because of its ability, right? So draw a card, then discard a card at random. If a card with 6 or more attack is discarded this way, banish a card from our graveyard, right? So it doesn't say a random card. You can literally pick any card in your graveyard to put in there if you don't have enough, or if you haven't banished anything with 6 or higher, so you can prevent the blood debt. Also, if you don't hit the banish for discard, that's alright. That's just another card in your graveyard for the next turn. That'll be the card that isn't 6 or more, and Deadwood Rumbler in your graveyard, already ready for the next turn. And the other one is Dread Screamer. Now James is a person who likes to go again, and Dread Screamer is literally a card that allows you to. So it's one of those cards that do require an additional cost of banishing 3 cards from our graveyard. But if one of them is 6 or more attack, it gains Go Again. It is a 2 cost, so it's not too hefty. And if you want to attack with your weapon after that, you can also attack with your weapon after that. The main thing that you need to know about Levia is that you need to grab a decent amount of blue cards to be able to pay for things, and a decent amount of attack action cards with 6 and higher attack base attack, so that you can save yourself from all that blood debt. Another way to kind of cheat the blood debt is look for shadow action cards that have blood debt that can be played from the banish zone. So provided they have Go Again, right? You play them from your banish onto the field and then back onto the grave, giving you that 1 extra card so that you can banish 3 cards for the next turn. The next hero that we will look at is Boltyn, and what he does is, if you charge this turn, attacks you control have +1 when defended by an attack action card. And he also has an attack reaction of banish a card from Boltyn's Soul. Target attack with greater attack than its base gains Go Again. Boltyn really you can play in 2 ways. One like a normal warrior, which is a little bit harder because a normal warrior kind of just attacks with their weapon. Bang bang. The way we recommend to play Boltyn is a bit more of hybrid, lenient towards the attack action cards, right? You definitely want to charge early game. If you can, charge early game. James and I have played Boltyn, and what we recommend is to look for a card named Take Flight. It is a light warrior attack action card, cost 1, and the red one hits for 4. What it does is, an additional cost to play Take Flight, you may charge your hero soul, which you definitely should. And if you charge this turn, Take Flight also gains Go Again, which is great because you don't have to activate Boltyn's ability to give this specific card Go Again. It also sets you up for your whole turn, so you can go long, so you can go wide. The card in your hero soul can be played for another card later on. And usually what we would recommend to follow this up is Overload. So Overload is a generic card, cost 0, and it has Dominate. The red version of the card attacks for 3, which may not sound too impressive, but if you think about it, since you've charged, if your opponent blocks it with an attack action card, Overload's attack goes by +1. A normal card usually blocks for just 3, so it will hit and will still have Go Again. If they don't really want Overload to hit, they would have to commit 2 cards to it, in which it's absolutely fine. If they commit 2 cards to it, if one of them is an attack action card, Boltyn's ability still triggers, Overload's base attack is still higher by 1, and you can still give it Go Again with Boltyn. And then hypothetically, if you pitched a blue at the start of the turn, you'd still have 2 floating pitch available. You can just start attacking with your weapons. Next here is Chane. It is a player favorite. Connor and I play Chane. What he does is, once per turn, create a Soul Shackle token. Your next Runeblade or Shadow action this turn gains Go Again. Runeblades are usually cards with no Go Again, so this ability is really useful. Now, Connor and I play Chane very differently. I make sure that I have an early game and I still set up for the late game. What that means is that the card that I personally look out for Chane is a card called Brandish. Now, it's a generic card, the cost of 1, and what it does is, if it hits, my next weapon attack gains +1. Now that might not seem too much, especially since Brandish only hits for 3, but imagine trying to hit your opponent for a blue Brandish, which is just 1. It gets them into that mind state of, do I want to block this 1 damage? But then it kind of stings them afterwards when you attack with your weapon, because your weapon now attacks for 2 if you haven't played a card from your banish zone, and it also deals arcane damage when it hits. Yes, there are some equipments that can prevent arcane damage, and if you're against a Prism, good luck if they make Law of Spectral Shield tokens, but other than that, arcane damage can barely be blocked in this set. Once Spell Void is gone, Spell Void is gone. Early games, they probably would want to save that Spell Void for late game. Take advantage of the situation and attack them with your sword early game, but before you attack with your sword, activate Chane's ability to give your sword Go Again, just so you can have a Soul Shackle, and that's really setting up for your late game. Now once you get to 3 subtle shackles, it's great because at the start of your turn, you banish 3 cards from the top of your library, and then you get to play any card with Blood Debt there. Obviously, if the card says you may play it, then you may play it. If not, don't force it. Be mindful though. I made a mistake during our games, and I didn't realize that I needed some non-attack action cards in my deck. Now, I did have some non-attack action cards in my deck, but not as much as I would like. I did take advantage of Seeds of Agony because it is a banned card, and banned cards are legal in a limited format. The reason I'm saying this is because some attack action cards with Blood Debt only allows you to play them from your banish zone if you play the non-attack action card. If you don't have any non-attack action cards, then there's just a card in your banish zone that you could potentially play that's hitting you for 1 damage at the end of your turn, every turn. Lastly, Prism. If you don't know what she does, once per turn instant, you may pay 2 and you banish a card from Prism Soul and create a Spectral Shield token. So if you don't know what a Spectral Shield is an aura with ward 1. So unfortunately, none of us play Prism, so I've asked some friends to see what their recommendation is if you're drafting Prism. Basically what they said, that if you're gonna draft Prism, she is a very popular hero, so it's really likely that you'll be fighting for Prism cards with other players. Since it's a draft, people can hate draft those cards away from you. The first things that we suggest you grab are Heralds, right? Heralds are extremely useful. Yes, we understand it has Phantasm. Yes, it's scary because once it's blocked by a non-illusionist card with an attack of 6, it fizzles basically, and it ends your combat. You lose your action point. People can only block with so many cards, and when your Herald hits, the advantage is great because usually when a Herald hits, it goes into Prism Soul, and then later on you can create a Spectral Shield token. If you get Luminaris, then it's going to be a completely different build, which unfortunately I don't entirely know what that build is, so we'll stay away from that for now. But for this specific video, we're not really focusing on logistics, we're focusing more on the commons that you could use. So a common that goes well with Heralds would be a generic card called Zealous Belting. Now Zealous Belting may be a weird card to play since it's a generic attack action card, and what it does is, while there is a card in your pitch zone with an attack greater than Zealous Belting's base attack, Zealous Belting gets Go Again. Combo for Prism is quite simple. If you find Heralds, put them into your deck. During your opponent's turn, block with 2 cards, and then during your turn you have 2 cards left. Hopefully that card's enough to fuel to pitch for your Herald. Play your Herald and then set up for late game, because your opponent can only block so many Phantasms unless your opponent's Levia. That's when the Go Again route is probably the better option. So that's when you play your Zealous Belting first to basically bait cards out of the hand, and then you play your Herald. Now late game we have been advised to grab a decent amount of blue pitches, because late game you plan to attack with your Spectral Shield tokens with Iris of Reality. Now if you like this kind of content, don't forget to like this video and comment down below what recommendations you have. What cards would you recommend for what heroes? Let's get a discussion going down in the comments below. And also it would really help us if you subscribe. Now we are growing with you. If we find out that you like this kind of content, then we'll make more of it. Until next time, see ya guys, enjoy pre-release.